Hello, everybody. This is the anti-natalist, and today I am at Valley of the Fire, and I'm entering the park, and I have a wonderful host with me that I'm going to interview, and I'm first going to scan around to show you this beautiful, beautiful scenery, and I mean it's just breathtaking. And we've got sandstone, and we've got like a monument over here the um, of the creation from the sand. It's turned into sort of a rock of sorts, but it's very soft and it breaks. But so I'm introducing Matt Staley. He is from Las Vegas, but he's lived in Portland and he's also been on the East Coast. He is new to the anti-natalist community, and I'm going to let him tell you how he came to the world of anti-natalism and how his life has confirmed his interest in non-procreation. So, Matt, let us have your timeline, the beginning of your life. Tell me about your family dynamics and how many were in your family and such.
Well, I was an only child. I was born at least 2 months prematurely, maybe even more so than that. And as I became older, it came to my knowledge, both from my mother and her side of the family, that she had undergone two previous abortions during the 1970s. And I nearly became the third on line. But legend has it that my father, through coercion, stopped her from doing it at one point, almost at the last second.
Yeah, I mean that's a tale to tell, and I'm sure a lot of women have had previous abortions. Did you ever want a sibling? Did you think that would make your life easier?
Given the dynamics of my home life, which was tumultuous at best, from my earliest memories, when I would literally be inside of a play pen as nothing but a captive audience to both dad and mom that were living in unfit conditions, clearly lacking the maturity or the skill to know what they were doing, let alone through bringing a child into this world. Um, I wished I had had some kind of source of comfort or companionship. I was all alone, and I just had to watch both extremes, if you will, between mom and dad, and there wasn't anything I can do about it. In fact, I was like around 4 years old when, after my mom's mother had said, you guys are unfit and I'm going to take charge of Matthew. And then within not even 2 weeks, I found myself in Las Vegas with my dad's side of the family, and my grandma had rented us like this 2-bedroom apartment. Then I finally had my own room. We weren't in this completely unusable studio. And I found myself all alone. And then for sometimes years, I would be exiled. I mean, all I had was like a TV set, a little yellow light, one that didn't even really tune much at that. And then for sometimes hours there again, I would just be hearing both extremes of dad and mom's relationship. And except for a couple of times a week in the beginning that I was at granddad and grandma's house, or my uncle, who was significantly younger than my father. He was fun to hang out with, and the woman he was even engaged to at the time, or even her friend, they were all very good to me. But it wasn't a daily thing that I got to be around those people.
It just occurred to me how isolating it would be as an only child if you were in a tumultuous family dynamic. I always wanted to be an only child. It would have been good for me. However, I'm now beginning to see your perspective, and in that you didn't have anybody to confide in, you didn't have any sympathy, you didn't have a buddy your age that would actually identify with the problems you're encountering in your own family. So being an only child can be so much more devastating than having a sibling to talk and engage with, to go through life together in that kind of misery.
Precisely. And in fact, for years, I wished that I had had a brother that was around my age, or even an older sister. I mean, something to be in between me and my dad or my mom. And because
Now, how old are you now?
I turned 44 this last month.
Okay, 44. And so we have a lot to go over with this video, but we are going to take different segments with different backdrops for innovation and creativity, and just to just explore this beautiful country that we live in, the USA. Because we do know that even though our lives might have sucked, it could have sucked a lot worse.
This is true. This is true.
I mean, we have so-called freedom, right? We have so-called freedom. But yeah, I really appreciate you doing this video. And so this is Matt Staley, and like I said, he's been in Las Vegas most of his life, and
the majority.
And so, give me a little background and a timeline of where you heard about anti-natalism and your online presence. Give me that.
Okay, I would have to say that at first I wasn't living in Portland full time, but when I made repeated visits, I don't remember exactly. I think it might have been the original website that, at least as of not even 15 months ago, was still up, for the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement, also known as Vehement. And then I found out about that, and then by doing a little bit more looking, I saw some of their collectible merchandise, bumper stickers, hats, T-shirts, and then I just dug more and more, and then and I read about this. I was about in my early to going on middle 20s at this point. And
now, what year was that? Tell us the year that you first saw the Vehement website.
Approximately 2000. It was 2004 or 2005.
That's a long time ago.
And this was before social media had exploded to where it is now.
You became familiar way before I did.
Right. And the thing is that the more that I read about it, I thought to myself, I can identify with this. Because even several years further back than that, I would say before I was not even quite 18 years old, I had decided, after the way I grew up, the constant arm wrestling with bad health, always looking over my shoulder for coercion, abuse by people who were not mature or equipped to handle this, and just the sheer loneliness. I mean, my God, if Patrick and his kind mother Jennifer, rest her soul, just hadn't come into my life when they did, when I was about 11 going on 12 years old, I would have had nobody.
Wow, that's very sad, and that's a tragedy. Now, you have recently joined some groups of mine, and I wasn't aware of you. You're kind of a newcomer, in the world of antinatalism and on the online circuit. And but you've really come on strong. You know the principles. You agree with the principles. You realize that it's no nonsense. It's just fact. Where antinatalism is just prevention of harm. It's not hating babies. It's
Absolutely not.
It's not hate. It's not about hate. It's about caretaking and prevention of harm. And so you've got a grasp on the philosophy, and they're talking with you and engaging with you online. I realize that you certainly don't have any shortcomings with being a very good representative of our culture and of our philosophy. So, is there anything else you want to add about your beginning of this philosophy, your awareness? Is there anything you want to add about that?
At this time, for now, what I can say is right around the time that those, I should say three. I'm going to want to give Patrick's father, Jerry, the credit. I mean, I wasn't really close to him right away like I was Patrick's mother. In time, that happened. But right around the time they came into my life, I put my heart into everything I do, and schoolwork was no exception. I needed to be on a more accommodating educational structure. The school system said that. They pushed it for my dad and mom. I was right within borderline to where there was some discretion. I mean, if my IQ level, to keep it short, was a couple of points lower, it would have been mandatory. I wasn't quite at the line yet, but they were saying let's give him in a 504. That's like the next step up from an IEP. And my dad was like, oh no, this isn't necessary. We don't need to do this. And then after those parent-teacher meetings, behind closed doors, it'd be like, you just need to knuckle down, you just need to try harder, says you could do it. And I tried telling him, no, I'm seriously, I've done all that I can, and it was a nightmare.
And that's dismissive. He did not recognize your disabilities or your your character shortcomings, if you will.
He didn't want to recognize it. He didn't want to believe it. That was the main thing.
Right. And my parents also, they were like, you just need to focus. You need to put more effort into what you're doing. You need to study harder. And it's just dismissiveness when you do have a disability. And they didn't recognize disabilities back then. And when did you find out that you had maybe a learning disability?
That it was determined for a certainty in about 1995, so just a little over 30 years ago, and then they changed my school courses accordingly. There was a bit of a complication though. About a year or two after that, once I started high school,
Okay, so Matt, we are on our second segment of this interview, and we are at the Valley of Fire State Park, and it's so chilly out here. It's probably 51 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to continue on with our interview. So tell me, at what age that you knew that you didn't want children, and why?
I would have to say by the time I wasn't even quite 18 years old, and that was simply because of the whole life that I had lived up to that point, and I didn't have the heart or the conscience to even contemplate or even remotely consider doing that to another living being.
And you said something, okay, riding in a car.
Oh, yeah. And as far as preventative measures, I never would put that in the responsibility of another woman. I mean, I respect them too much for that. I always was responsible, and regardless of her age or probability of becoming pregnant, I don't believe in anything unprotected. I would feel like I was riding in a car with no seatbelt, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's just pretty good. Okay, and you also knew that you didn't want children because of, I think you described it as child abuse and trauma when you were young. Is that true?
Which time? It went on lots of that. That was all that I grew up knowing.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you probably compared your life to others as you grew up, and then you realized something's
Gradually.
off.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
other people don't exactly experience what you experience.
Most people didn't.
And you've said that your parents were ill-equipped to raise a child.
That's putting it mildly. They didn't have the maturity, the know-how, and even my mother, who left the world recently, but she didn't, she aborted too. I was her third pregnancy, and that nearly was her third abortion.
Yeah, and you said your dad insisted on that she keep the fetus, or...
Absolutely.
So, now what age was it again?
Control.
What age did you know that you didn't want a child?
I would say by the time I was 17, easily.
Yeah, no, that's really young. So you were probably an anti-natalist, in your teenage years.
Sure, I didn't know about the whole movement and concept,
yeah.
but once I did finally discover it, it was consistent with my own beliefs.
Right. Like I realized going back to when I was 14 or even 12 that there were some things in my family I really disapproved of, and that were really unfair, and it wasn't a very supportive environment. There was no coaching, there was no care, not a lot of empathy, if you will. And both of my parents were very narcissistic. They fit every check off of the narcissistic box. Now, you said you didn't take chances with women. I highly commend you for that. Now, can go into detail as much as you feel comfortable with, um, as far as you know, when you were young, like, if you met a partner, or, were there any times that you took chances, or that you were worried or had a scare?
No, I can't say that that really happened. Now, after I was married, this was like at the age of 20, and while this certainly wasn't the only factor, um, part of my decision to pick someone that was like almost 23 years my senior was the almost certain likelihood that even if there was any slip ups, that would never happen, and that they wouldn't have to worry about bringing an innocent child into the equation.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, that was a
but
smart
so
choice.
right. So I mean that was part of it, but other than that, no. I mean, now while about 10 years later, I was engaged to somebody for a little while who already had a boy. It was not my biological child. I still looked after and cared for him. He was completely fatherless by that point, by the way. But I did everything I could to make him feel protected and loved and just noticed.
Yeah,
I felt terrible for
I
him
think it
because
was you that mentioned. I think I posted this. You created a post online somewhere, and you said that one of the best things to do is to either foster or marry a or hook or you know um engage with a woman who already has a child and raise that child. Were you the one that said that?
I don't remember if that was my specific post, but
Okay.
it's definitely something that I would have
Yeah.
supported.
And there's a lot of single moms out there, and there's a lot of men that do not want to date single moms, and for good reason. And they must have many, many good reasons as to why they don't want to take on a single mom and her child or children from another man. But men who can find it in their heart to do that, if they're compatible with the woman, it's certainly worth an effort, just to give a child a home, because a lot of men just aren't sticking around, and I don't know why. Like in my generation, it was really, really a very unpopular choice for a man to desert the woman he impregnated, or to leave the family, with no resources, or not even an extra hand. But it's an epidemic of single moms out there.
Oh yeah, or even as recently as 26 to 30 years ago when I start would have started being an adult, that was considered shameful in that sense. Maybe not as far back as what you're
Yeah.
talking about, but it still was. I mean, I'm not that young. I can remember when what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
But it's not shameful anymore. It's almost like it's expected. Women sometimes don't even mind being a single mom, but I think they realize once they take on the endeavor that it's way more difficult than they ever expected. And it's a lonely feeling, and it's an isolating feeling. And it's just not a good way to raise a child when you just have one parent. So I think we're going to wrap up this segment of the interview. Is there anything else you want to add?
Uh, did you have any other questions about what I've
We're
spoken
going to
with?
continue this on another segment.
Okay, okay. But no, I don't think I wanted to.
Okay, tell me about,
Hmm.
you said ill-equipped to raise a child. Can you explain that? Your parents.
Oh, okay. Both of them unemployed. They were they had less than no money at the time I was born, and to be honest, they were literally homeless at the time of my birth. It
Oh
was like
my.
over two
You
months
didn't tell
premature.
me that.
It's the truth. I mean, it was no secret. In
Were they
fact,
on assistance?
I couldn't say that for certain one way or the other, but what I can tell you, and eventually this was corroborated once I was old enough to understand it, is that I was in an incubator for at least the first 22 days of my life, maybe longer. I do know that both me and my mother were around January 28th or 29th, and I was born January 1st before release from the hospital.
No, there is a term nowadays. It's called food. Is it called food? Not food shortage, but food insecurity, or something like that. And you were telling me that you didn't always have food when you went to school, and that teachers explain that.
Oh, sure. Well, there were several times where I would show up unkempt or looking like I was deprived of sleep or distressed or all of the above. And several times over the years, teachers would either insist on giving me lunch money or buying me some food or making sure that I had food and drink. And after enough times when I was in junior high school that I showed up looking distressed and or undernourished, that was when the county got involved.
And that led you to Patrick, your friend's parents, who took
Correct.
you in as foster.
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
how old were you when you went into their home?
That happened on a few separate occasions, and it was always on a temporary emergency basis.
How young were you?
12 to 13.
Oh, see, okay, that's your formative years. So that's, that's a tragedy, and it's affected your life, immeasurably. So we are going to continue this video at another location. So thank you for your interview so far.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to scan around to show you the beautiful desert scenery. This is a Mojave desert. But look at this really cool plant. Look how cool that is.
Very.
And yes, folks, this is sand. So this is a lighter sand. This is a very light golden sand, which is very different than the red sand. It's why they named it Valley of Fire. And this is a really mean cactus. This is a cholla. And if I remember correctly, it's barbed. So if you prick your finger with it, it goes in quite easily. But when you pull it out, it actually rips the skin. So think of a fish hook. It's just a stunning scenery. We're gonna have to go though because it's freezing out here. It's got to be 50 or even less. It'll probably get down to 30 degrees at night when the deserts get very cold. But isn't this cool? It's almost like a cave in there. This reminds me of parts of New Mexico.
Sure does. Beautiful.
So anyway, yeah. So we're leaving right now. We're continuing this later. Okay, everybody, we have Matt here again, and he is going to wrap up the, oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Hold on a minute. I just had to take a picture of this beautiful couple. Oh my God. So this is in celebration of Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year. So anyway, back to Matt. Okay, as a young adult, tell me of the traumas and setbacks that you encountered that really solidified your belief in non-procreation and the ethics around not bringing kids into an imperfect world.
Oh, that's simple. For starters, constant day in, day out wage slavery. I usually didn't have enough by close to 2/3. I was always struggling, wondering where my next meal was coming from. And when all I ever looked toward my natural immediate family for was a little bit of support. They'd be like, this is why you gotta stop playing games. You gotta just knuckle down and do what you're supposed to do. Like it was all within my control. Oh, and don't forget, no access to health care, let alone quality health care. And that just made me feel exhausted and more drained and have to struggle even harder, a million times harder, just to wage slave some more.
And the traumas about your family, your parents, growing up?
Oh, well, it was the same deal. I mean, the whole time I was growing up, struggling with a not marked, but a significant enough learning disability. And then the school system wanting to put me in something more accommodating. And then Dad, he's just like, no, he just needs to try harder, needs to work harder. It's all in his head.
Now, tell me as your life progressed, you mentioned your parents having fights. Can you go into detail about that and about your mom's eventual demise?
Oh, yeah. It was. I could count probably on one hand and have fingers left all the times I could recall that they were not fighting day in and day out, whether it be at home, whether it be in the car, it be in a public place. It was nonstop. And worse, we had a 2-door coupe, so I had no way to escape from the back seat.
Now, they were loud and fighting. Did they hit each other? Domestic violence?
Oh yes. Sometimes it escalated to that. Sometimes it wasn't as bad. Sometimes it felt worse. Sometimes I would be in my room for what seemed like days.
Now, what did you do when they were fighting? How did you cope?
You know, I didn't have any way to. I just had to like keep myself isolated, try to stay out of their way. The couple of times I tried to stand up for Mom, that was something I regretted really quick. But it wasn't until I was a teenager that other people, bless their hearts and rest their souls, stepped up to try to make a difference and do more for me than they ever did.
And that you said your dad was very misogynistic.
Oh, no question. Up until just last year and the very last 8 months of my mom's life. I mean, even despite the fact that anybody that knew her could see for several years was progressing with dementia, but yet he's just like, oh, she's just depressed. She just needs to get the right sweet spot of medicine. She'll be back to her old self. And he tells me numerous times what exactly his expectations were. It made me sick.
Now, tell me about your mom and what...
She couldn't hold any objects anymore. I mean, couldn't even stay conscious or remember how to cook, was in a lot of pain. And she would even tell me during her last weeks, he just doesn't understand. I'm not just depressed. And then, Lord behold, was on the 29th of December, about 3 days before New Year's and 3 days before her 75th, would have been her 75th birthday. She's like, I can't take this. Dad was out of the house for like, I don't know, 20 minutes, if that, and she checked out.
How did she end her life?
She jumped from a 7-story high-rise right into a parking lot, one that I never liked.
So that's very tragic, and you know, that must be that's a further trauma that you have to endure, and shocking and just horrific.
It wasn't necessary. And see, people also need to remember, and this is really important, that...
Okay, Matt. So you were talking about how misogynistic your dad was.
Oh yes, obviously. He would deny it, but anybody could see, and there was at least 2 conversations I had last year that left no ambiguity to the issue.
And he was very abusive and sexually abusive.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I saw bits of that off and on throughout since I was a toddler.
Okay, and tell me the last thing you wanted to bring up about anti-natalism.
Oh, and that's that what people should know is that it's not about anti-birth, it's about anti-parents.
Yes. Go into that. Go into detail.
Because you see, people think that it's about like wanting to be genocidal or stop birth, but it's not at all. Parents are the ones who make that decision before the child is even conceived. It's about a parent. They consent to something that a new life couldn't possibly consent to.
Yeah. So really, the movement really is about parents. Fundamentally, it is about parents. And it is about them using their prerogative to make their own consent for your life. They're gambling with their child's life.
That's right.
So
it's like a rigged game where the house wins.
We are anti-parent. We're not anti-child.
No, not at all.
And the fact that, you know, parents are our murderers.
All parents are murderers. And you see,
now, is there anything that you want to add before I taper this video off? We were at the Bellagio and we were celebrating the Chinese Lunar New Year, and I'm trying to struggle doing this video with a mob of traffic, a mob of people. So is there anything you want to bring up?
Well, one last thing I would like to say is that if people would actually give our cause a chance without bias, listen to the subtext.
Thank you.
And listen to the brilliant queen of anti-natalism. You can really learn a lot from her.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Matt. So we're signing off, and that's the end of our video. And yeah, he lives in Las Vegas. So I'm just visiting, and we're agreed to do a video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for your comments and your subscribing, and feel free to share and donate. Thank you.